I was driving towards Bothwell Castle at the weekend. Before I even got there, I passed something I wasn't expecting. The Tunnock's factory. I knew Bothwell was near Uddingston, but I'd never really joined those two things together. Tea cakes, caramel wafers, that red and gold packaging everybody knows, and then just a few minutes away, one of the strongest castles Scotland ever tried to build. There are two stories at Bothwell Castle. One is written in broken stone, the other one drowned in the river below it. The first one begins with a family trying to build one of the greatest castles in Scotland. The second begins with a girl who tried to escape it. It was raining the day I filmed Bothwell, and it suited the place. The Clyde was running high and loud below the walls. The stone was dark and wet. No sunshine, no postcard, just an old castle on a hard morning, which is about right for the story it carries. The river bends right around the foot of it. Trees crowd the banks, and the castle sits above the water where it sat for 700 years. You notice the problem with it almost straight away. Half of the castle is standing strong, the other half was never allowed to. One end is a great ruined tower, tall and thick and certain of itself, but follow the wall along and it loses its nerve. The far end is cut short, as if someone took the most ambitious thing here and decided it couldn't be left to stand. That's exactly what happened, and the story of who did it and why is the heart of this place. Keep the Clyde in mind while I tell it. The river runs through everything that happens here, right till the end. Let's start with the family who built it. The Morays weren't putting up a fort. Anyone with money and fear can build a fort. The Morays were trying to leave a mark on Scotland that would outlast every one of them. And the heart of that ambition was the great tower you still see standing. Moray and Moray are the same name, same family. Worth remembering because a Moray comes back into this story at the worst possible moment. It's enormous, nearly 20 metres across, with walls in place 4.5 metres thick. Walls like that aren't about defence, they're about permanence. They were telling everyone who saw it that this family was rich and powerful and not going anywhere. They very nearly pulled it off. The tower was meant to anchor one of the grandest castles in the country, a statement you could see coming from miles up the river. What they couldn't build was good timing. The Morays were putting up Bothwell at the worst possible time. War was coming for Scotland, and a strong castle in the Clyde was suddenly worth fighting over. What the Morays meant as a family's monument turned almost overnight into a military prize, and a prize gets taken. In 1301, the King of England came for it himself. He brought around 6,800 men, and a siege tower called berefrey, hauled the whole way from Glasgow, big enough that moving it across the country was a feat in itself. They dragged it to the foot of these walls, and the people inside watched it come, and in the end, they gave the castle up. There wasn't much else they could do. That's the short version, and it's all the siege needs. Because the siege isn't really the damage that matters here, it's just how Bothwell stopped belonging to the people who built it. What mattered came later. The English didn't just hold Bothwell, they valued it. By the 1330s, Edward III had repaired it enough to use as a military headquarters in Scotland, a base for holding down the country around it. Moray's great monument had become a tool for the occupation of their own land. And that's the problem that lands on Sir Andrew Moray, from the same family that built this place. He was Guardian of Scotland. In 1337, he took the castle back, waiting until the English commanders were away, and then laying siege to the place his own people had razed. So now picture the position he's in. He's standing inside the grandest thing his family ever made. He just won it back. The natural thing, the human thing, is to hold it, to keep it, to restore the family name in the family's own walls. He doesn't. He looks at that magnificent tower, and he understands that as long as it stands, the English will come back and take it again, and use it against Scotland, exactly as they have been doing. A castle still standing is a weapon pointed at his own country. A broken one is just stone. So he breaks it. He has the great tower torn down. The proudest thing his family ever built dismantled by one of their own on purpose. That's the decision you're looking at, where that wall just stops. A man pulling down his own family's masterpiece because standing, it only helped the enemy. The castle never recovered. It was rebuilt later, lived in, fought over again, but what Moray left behind was never put right. The original ambition died the day he made that call. But this bend of the Clyde was keeping more than one story. They say there was a girl called Bonnie Jean, the daughter of a governor of Bothwell Castle. Back when the castle was lived in rather than ruined, young, well kept, and a future already mapped out for her by a careful father. The kind of future that didn't include the man she fell in love with. Because she did fall in love, and she fell the wrong way. He was beneath her, lower born, with no land and no name that would do her family any good. To her, none of that counted for anything. To her father, it counted for everything. He said no, and in a place like Bothwell, a father's no wasn't just an opinion. He controlled the doors, the servants, and the future, the whole shape of the life she was expected to live. So they met where they could, down by the water when the household slept, in the shadow of the walls where nobody thought to look. A girl who had been told since birth exactly who she'd marry, and a young man who could give her nothing her father wanted. Neither of them cared. The only way out that her father didn't control was the river. So one night, in a storm, the two of them went down to the water below the castle and took a small boat out into the Clyde. They meant to cross it and be gone before anyone knew. He didn't make it halfway. The storm took the boat, and the river took them. The current wrapped so neatly around the castle pulled the pair of them under, the girl and the man she'd chosen, and gave neither of them back. But the river didn't quite let her go. When the weather turns, when the rain comes in hard, and the Clyde rises and goes loud below the walls, you can still hear her near the castle, not screaming, crying, for the life she wasn't allowed and the man she drowned beside. So there are two stories on this bend of the Clyde. One is the castle, a family who set out to build something that would outlast them, and the son of that family who tore the best of it down with his own hands, because whole it only served the people he was fighting. He chose his country and left the rest in pieces. The other is the girl, a father who could control everything but the river, and a daughter who took the one way out he couldn't lock and never reached the far bank. The rain hasn't eased, the Clyde is still high, still loud below the walls. The castle stands the way Andrew Moray left it, strong at one end and broken at the other. And come down to the Clyde walkway during a storm when the rain's hard and the river's loud, and you might just hear Bonnie Jean, still crying, still waiting on a man the river never gave back. What do you think, Tara? It's a bit of a wet day we've got here. I think I have to abandon the drone flight, because that's not rain, that's Scottish rain.